What's up, everybody? My name is Artis Anderson, and I am a relationship and marriage consultant. I am the CEO of Forever Love, a relationship and marriage consulting firm, as well as the founder of the Relationship and Marriage University, where we provide relationship education anywhere from teenage to 80, 90 years old. As a relationship and marriage consultant, I help single people get married and help married people stay married because healed people have healthy relationships. So we prioritize relationship education. If you have any questions or need any help, any counseling, you can call us on the Forever Love Hotline, toll free, fully anonymous at 1-888-420-0471, or call our local number, 702-757-1931. And you can visit our website at try4everlove.com. I said that wrong, but I'm going to say it again. try4everlove.com. Yeah, that's right. Try4everlove.com, try4everlove.com, and book a free consultation at any time. All right. So I want to talk about how to fix your relationship or marriage with one simple change. All right. In our culture, whenever a person voices his or her issues or challenges with their husband or wife, whether it's on social media, whether it's to family and friends, or publicly, or whatever the case may be, the majority response from people is centered around what he did to cause her to be like that, or what she did to cause him to be like that, or what he or she is lacking or not doing. And men and women both do this, all right? And honestly, I want y'all to know, and I want y'all to really ponder on this. I want you to think about how narcissistic this really is, to assume that when somebody comes to you or when you hear about a relationship issue or a challenge, that you automatically assume the other gender is the issue or the problem. I want you to really think about how rooted in trauma that is and how narcissistic that is. I want you to really think about that. Now, here is the change you must make to fix your relationship and marriage. We all have to stop blame shifting. We have to stop blame shifting to the other gender. All right. It's actually a sign of immaturity, major immaturity. And there's two parts to this. The first big key is to identify that this is, let me say it a better way. The first big key to identifying this is if you blame your spouse for your decisions and behavior. The second is when you focus on your spouse's issues more than you do your own, simply because you subconsciously believe that theirs is worse than yours. I'm going to break that down again. We have to stop blame shifting in our relationships and in our marriages, because that's a major sign of immaturity. And there's two parts to this. The first big key is to identifying this is if you blame your spouse for your decisions and your behavior. The second is when you focus on your spouse's issues more than you do your own, simply because you subconsciously believe that theirs is worse than yours. Now, keep in mind, the ultimate goal of a healthy relationship is not to find who to blame, but it's to identify what you are contributing to the problem. So the goal is for two emotionally mature people to learn how to remain responsible for themselves while loving each other through difficult situations or challenges or issues. Now, people will focus, let me say it this way. In relationships, especially marriage, people will focus on their forgetfulness and ignore their attitude. People will focus on your inconsistency with the house chores, for example, but ignore their disrespect. People will focus on your tone during an argument and ignore their constant emotional neglect. People will focus on your late responses to time or whatever the case may be, and ignore their constant criticism and hostility. People will focus on your lack of romance and ignore their constant rejection and coldness. People will focus on your financial mistakes and ignore their reckless spending habits. People will focus on your emotional shutdowns and ignore the environment that made the vulnerability unsafe. People will focus on your lack of communication and ignore how every conversation turns into conflict and war. People will focus on your flaws as a parent and ignore their emotional instability around the children. People will focus on your failure to plan dates and ignore their constant negativity and lack of appreciation. People will focus on your mistakes during conflict and ignore the disrespectful way they speak to you daily. People will focus on your lack of affection and ignore the unresolved resentment poisoning the relationship that they caused. People will focus on your reactions and ignore the repeated behaviors provoking those actions that they created. People will focus on your emotional exhaustion and call it being lazy or call it apathetic while ignoring the pressure that they put on you silently. People will focus on you withdrawing and ignore the constant tension and criticism and emotional pressure in the home that they create. People will focus on your inability to open up and be vulnerable and ignore how your feelings are dismissed every time you try to open up. People will focus on your inconsistency and ignore the emotional chaos in the environment that comes from their repeated behavior, their repeated words, etc. People will focus on your imperfections while excusing their own toxic patterns as this is just who I am. People will focus on how you cope with things and ignore their negative coping skills. People will focus on your lack of patience while ignoring years of unresolved impatience that they also have. People will focus on your frustrations but ignore the constant provoking and poking and antagonizing behavior that they display towards you. People will focus on your bad moments while ignoring the unhealthy environment producing those moments that they create. People will focus on your communication style while ignoring their unwillingness to actually listen. People will focus on your emotional distance, but ignore the reason why you're distancing yourself, which is because of their betrayal or lack of trust or their lack of respecting your boundaries. I mean, the list goes on and I can keep going forever. People will focus on your lack of effort in one area while ignoring the overwhelming burden that you carry in 10 others. People will focus on your struggles to trust while ignoring the history of dishonesty and inconsistency. People will focus on your burnout and call you weak and neglectful while ignoring how draining they are to be around. Like these things happen over and over and over in relationships and marriages, where when there are issues, the significant other will focus only on you rather than themselves. That's the blame shifting. It's you're the reason why our relationship is messed up. You're the reason why our marriage is messed up. No. Two people are responsible. Two people are the problem. Period. And remember, what I'm highlighting is the main issue we see is that when there are issues in the relationship and in the marriage, a spouse will only focus on their spouse's issues instead of their own as well. And you got to be careful about people who prioritize the justification of their actions and their feelings above self-accountability and self-responsibility. Because one of the clearest signs of emotional immaturity is when a person can explain their behavior endlessly and justify what they do and what they say endlessly and not take ownership of it. And even if they do take some ownership of it, it's still it's still a bad precedent, right? To to try to justify all the things you do because of what they do. You got to pay attention to that. Pay attention to conversations where every explanation turns back toward the other person. Every problem becomes their significant other's fault. Every emotional reaction is justified because of something their significant other did. Every discussion circles back to what you did. It's just never really about them. It can't never really just be about their responsibility of what they play in it. Well, I only did this because you the one who made me feel like, well, you caused me to. No. Regardless of everything else, you made decisions to do what you did. And all of that contributes to the issues in the relationship and in the marriage. This mindset is dangerous to marriage, dangerous to relationships, because it creates people who become experts at defending their behavior instead of correcting their behavior because they have a justification for it. Well, I wouldn't have to yell if you would just clean up like I told you to. Well, first of all, we're not children. So, I mean, yes, you asked me to clean up. And yeah, I might not have done it. But that doesn't change the fact that you don't have to yell or be belligerent or be dismissive or disrespectful. There's a major, major difference between explaining behavior and excusing behavior. So when you are a healthy individual, you say things like, yes, I was hurt, but I still handled that wrong. Yes, I was disappointed, but my response was unhealthy. Yes, you did affect me, but I still have to govern myself. See, when you talk like that and respond like that, that's healthy. But emotionally immature people struggle to do that. What they do instead is they intellectualize their dysfunction and they rationalize their reactions and their decisions and their choices and their behavior. They justify the disrespect. They actually defend their toxic behavior and weaponize it and shift the blame to you. And eventually those conversations stop becoming about how do we fix this, and they start becoming about who we can continue to blame for it. So what this mindset is narcissistic in a lot of ways. Not simply because someone's emotions or pain or frustrations or explanations or their behavior is in and of itself the issue. But what makes it narcissistic is when a person constantly centers themselves so heavily that accountability is gone. I disrespected you because you upset me. There's no excuse to disrespect me. Well, I cheated because you weren't attentive and you were neglecting me. No excuse to cheat. I screamed because you triggered me. Not an excuse to scream at me. I became cold because you the one who was never around. There's no excuse to become cold. I understand it, but you could have just came to me and talked to me. See, at the end of the day, right? At the end of the day, here's the reality. Just going back to what I'm originally talking about. When we are blaming our spouse or blaming the other person, all we're really doing is doing what culture does, what society is conditioned to do. When we hear a man talk about his issues or challenges, we automatically assume, well, what did you do to make her feel like that? Or when a woman expresses her issues, or what did he do to make her feel like that? See, we have this issue, right, where men assume that women are the issues, and women assume that men are the issue. And this is an unhealthy dynamic we've created in our culture. because we love to shift the blame. When the reality is, men and women have to both come to the realization that I have to look in the mirror and realize that every reaction has a cause. Every effect has a cause. And at some point, you lose track of the origin most of the time. And you have to just deal with the issue presently and say, you know what, we both did something. We both have the ability to fix it. So let's just sit down and fix it. And in our culture, we have to stop creating these mechanisms in our head to blame the other gender as if we don't do anything wrong as a man or anything wrong as a woman. That's the challenge. That's the issue. Men do wrong things and women do wrong things. Men are to blame and women are to blame. It's not just a one or the other. It's both. Like, human beings have a challenge, and it's not a man thing or a woman thing. So I wanted to just highlight that and talk about that today because I think it was very important. I was having a conversation with somebody and this subject came up and we talked about it, and I said, I'm gonna do a video about it. So that's kind of how the video came about. But again, whenever a person voices his or her issues publicly or on a podcast or whatever, there's this overwhelming response to where it's like we assume men are the issue, men are the problem. If men stop that, or women are the problem, women stop that. Listen, y'all. If you are a woman and you automatically assume that men are the problem, you got to understand how narcissistic that is. To put yourself at the center of everything as if you are so great and so amazing and you can do no wrong, and the gender of woman is just flawlessly impeccable. And the same thing with men, how we assume we can do no wrong as if we don't do anything that causes friction amongst the community when it comes to men and women. Like, y'all, our genders are not that special. We are all human beings who do similar things in various different ways. And I want you to keep that in mind. Again, just to reiterate, you got to stop shifting the blame if you want to fix your relationship. You got to stop blame shifting if you want to fix your marriage. And the first big key in this is identifying that if you blame your spouse for your decisions and your behavior, that is a sign of immaturity and it's a sign of blame shifting. And the second is when you focus on your spouse's issues more than you do your own, simply because you subconsciously believe that theirs is worse than yours. You got to change this mindset. You got to transform your mind and get out of all of this bias. If you ever want to fix your relationship, don't let the culture cause you to assume and believe that because you are a woman or because you are a man, that the other gender is automatically the problem, especially within your relationship or marriage. Always look in the mirror first and say, what is my role in this? Before I blame anybody else, what is my role? Yes, they did something to affect me. Yes, they did something to hurt me. Yes, they did something to disappoint me. Yes, they're flawed. Yes, they did this, that, and the third. But what role am I also playing in this? What role am I playing in this? Remember, people will focus on your emotional sensitivity while ignoring their harshness, their sarcasm, their cruelty. This is what we do. People will focus on your shortcomings while ignoring how in the relationship they are also flawed. People will focus on what you failed to do externally while ignoring what you have been surviving internally in terms of what they're failing to do. See, we just don't see ourselves the way we should because it's easy to look at the other person. So how about we do one thing, just starting today, to fix our relationship and marriage. Stop blame shifting. And in your relationship, only focus on what you need to fix and be accountable to that. Again, if you need any relationship and marriage counseling, make sure you go to tryforeverlove.com, TRY4everlove.com. Set up a free consultation, all right? Or just call or text us anonymously on our Forever Love hotline. You can reach us at 1-888-420-0471 or call us locally at 702-757-1931. Either way, keep improving as a significant other. Make your relationship better one day at a time. Forever Love works because love will last forever if you work your love. All right. Appreciate y'all. See y'all next time.